So we're down here in RC Dungeon today, or this evening, and we're doing a little video on modification of the Trailfinder 3. Because I know a lot of guys don't like the steering on the Tf3. Well, I mean, it's just kind of, it does have its issues how Rc4wd set up that Tf3 steering. So my friend Denzel here, the one you see in the videos all the time, we're all the time doing the trail videos and stuff. He came up with a pretty cool way of setting up that steering on the Tf3. It does involve making some stuff, and I've got the material that he used to make it here, and we're going to do the video. I'm going to let him go about how he did it, because it's not, it was his idea, and he came up with the idea of doing it this way. It works really well. He's tested it out real well. He can go in a better in-depth explanation of it. So the guys that have the Trailfinder 3s, which that truck doesn't ever seem to get much love anyways, which I don't understand, because it's actually a pretty nice platform and everything. I just wanted to get this will be the very first part of the video, and then it'll just move into him explaining everything, how he did it and everything. So hopefully some guys with the Trailfinder 3 platform, they get some use out of this. It really does work really well. And while right now he's disassembling the mount and everything. So one thing I'll just talk about here real quick with the Trailfinder 3, what a lot of people don't realize is, with the guys with the TF2s, a lot of the TF2s, a lot of the mods that the guys do with the TF2, with the taller shock hoops and the longer shocks in the front, a lot of guys are running like anywhere from the 80 to the 90, whatever, in the front, the millimeters, the length of your shock. A lot of people don't realize that the Trailfinder 3 already comes with the taller shock hoops. I can't remember. I think they're either 90. I think they're 90 or 100 millimeter all the way around. I think they're 90s all the way around on the Trailfinder 3. So you're already getting the taller shock hoops, which, no, they're not the Jalonde shock hoops. They're different. They're their own thing. I actually think they're a little taller than the Jalonde shock hoops from Rc4wd Drive. They're actually taller than the shock hoops that I use, which is, you can go back and watch my videos, which are the ones that are the the cheap, I think they're $10, $11 China ones, or whatever. I'm sure they're just unbranded CC hand ones. So, but anyhow, that's the TF3, I give it a lot of credit with that. The suspension, and my buddy Denzel here kind of feels the same way. The Trailfinder 3, I don't care what anybody says, the suspension works better on the TF3 right out of the box. And then working with your leaf springs, breaking them in by hand. You can watch my video. I got several videos of showing you how to break in the leaf springs by hand. When you really do that, you don't even really got to do anything else modification-wise with the taller shock hoops or longer shocks or any of that stuff with the Trailfinder 3. I really wish Rc4wd Drive would come up with a nice reverse shackle kit for the front of the Tf3 truck. That I think that would sell for the Tf3. I don't even know. The Tf3 probably don't get enough love from anybody, especially I've noticed in the YouTube community, and I don't understand it, because it is a lot more scale, true to, to a Toyota chassis. You can literally pull up a Toyota chassis in that year on Google and look at the images and look at the Tf3 chassis, and it's almost an exact replica. Just like the old bruisers, the Tamiya bruisers and stuff like that. So, but I'm going to shut this off, and we'll get the camera set back up in the next view. I'm going to let him talk to you guys and walk you through how he did this. And I've got the part over here, the part that he cut off. I kept it. I actually had plans on using that on my Rust Bucket Blazer, the fan and stuff, but I ended up not actually. I went a different route with the Rust Bucket, with the scale, which I still got to get that update, guys. I'll get that update posted on the Rust Bucket. So I'm going to get this camera shut off and flip back around and set up and try to get you guys a really good view on how he did this, and I'll let him get started in that explanation. So, guys, just hang in here for the first 4 minutes of something of me being just bullshitting, and then he'll explain this to you guys, how he did it, and the easiest way of going about doing it. And it's really easy. It works extremely well. If you don't care about the scale motor in it, which most people, they don't care for the scale engine in it because it looks more like a 6BT Cummins. versus a 22RE Toyota motor. I mean, that's just my opinion of it. RC4 drive made it a little big. So I understand where they were going with that, though, because they were going to run, you could run a 540 can or a 550 can in it. So with this, I still think you could squeeze probably, maybe. Do you think you can squeeze a 550 can motor in there still?
Yeah.
Okay, so he thinks with this mod, he says you can still squeeze the 550, which is overkill for a TF2 or a TF3, really, which we found, you found that out as well. You don't really need the 550 can. You really don't, unless you're super heavy or hauling something maybe. But I'm going to flip the camera around, get this started, let him go at it for you guys. So hold on one sec. Whenever you want to start on it, and then I'll be the camera operator.
Okay, so the problem I had with the TF3 was, of course, the steering. That was my main issue with it.
Was a lot of people.
Other than that, I loved the TF3, the two-speed transmission, the suspension, everything straight out of the box. In my opinion, was so much better than my Midnight. But the steering, it just kept wanting to bind up, especially turning to your left.
And you actually burn up.
I burned up
a
servo and made another one hot.
Because it would bind bad.
That's just with the weighted trail wheels. There's no extra weight. I don't have no brass or nothing. And the stock servos, even with a heavier duty servo, I just still had trouble with the steering of it. And
it really was way worse off than mine. What my truck is, I don't know what the deal is with it, but you guys can watch my videos. Mine's all stock, and mine don't bind in the same area. That's what's nice about running the church trail.
Yeah.
I know, I mean, I run a lot of videos on it and everything, but it's real nice because you can set every truck up and go out and run them and see what works. And you see the difference in performance.
Yep.
So that's one reason why we go there a lot, guys, because it's a good gauge if you're running the same trail. You actually see what you're gaining and what you're losing.
Yeah, it was always getting bound up pretty much right there in that same spot.
Right, and I witnessed that. I mean, just as well.
The nose was down, and you tried to turn to the left. It was not. It just.
It would not turn out, would it?
Would not turn out of it.
No, it wouldn't even budge.
So.
Right.
I was getting very frustrated with it, and I decided I was going to make a mount. So I just sized everything up, checked my motor and everything out without having to modify anything much with the top part of the motor or my mounts. I wanted to devise a way to make a mount to put here in the front.
Which is right down in there, guys. This is where the mount is going to go. So, just to show you guys there.
So, I took a 1/16 of an inch piece of aluminum stock.
There you go.
And it started out as a square piece, of course. I just took a Dremel tool with a cutting disc on it. Drawed out my pattern first on a piece of plastic and made everything fit. Now I just laid my plastic template on top of this and cut it out. Now it includes, with this transformation, you could do all three of these little screws across your mount in the front. I just chose to do two. But they're a recessed screw, so you've got a little... Flush. Yeah, it sets down. You can see the little recess that the screw goes down into.
Right.
But this mount sets perfectly right in this little trough.
And this is kind of how some of the original SCX-10s kind of had a servo mount up here. Chassis, CMS, a chassis mounted servo.
Because you got this perfect little lip that goes right across your bumper mount here on the front anyway. So that just snugs right up against it. Makes for a good, solid base to bolt it down to.
Right.
Now my conversion with the motor, this piece on the front actually just screws off. So instead of chopping down through all of my motor, if I wanted to lift my hood and still be able to see the motor, you can still see your scale motor without having to cut the head off. So I just took the front part off.
Which is only maybe, what is that, an inch?
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's probably about
Maybe a little more. Well, I guess
with the fan,
with an inch and a half,
about an inch and a quarter, an inch and a half, something
Yeah.
like that.
Which isn't, I mean, no big deal. Like you said, the hood doesn't open on the truck anyway.
So I started with taking the screws out of the oil pan.
Okay, I'm try to get in there.
And
all right.
I took all the screws out of the oil pan and took it off.
Okay. So you took the oil pan off the cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Of course, I had to take the motor completely out to do this.
Right, disassemble.
So you can see I just cut my motor up to the bottom of the head. Only had, once I took that front piece, once I took this front piece off, then I only had like a, well, you can see there, I only had probably like another ½ inch of plastic to cut, which was,
right,
with a hacksaw blade, it's no big deal.
And that's what you use to cut, because the Dremel does it'll booger up your plastic.
The hacksaw did a little bit, the hacksaw
but
blade.
not bad. I'll get into the cuts. See, guys, that's what he's talking about. You can get a cleaner cut with the hacksaw blade, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more of an accurate cut than trying to use a Dremel, because you're cutting both sides at the same time.
Right. It's even. It's easier to get even on it,
So then I just took my pocket knife and cleaned a little bit of the burrs off, the excess burrs.
Okay.
Now this wheel, like he mentioned earlier, you can still use, you can use a 550 can motor in here, and it'll still, your arm will still, it'll still clear.
I'll zoom in a little bit there on it, that way they can get a good look at the, yeah, that's
but
really
now
good.
Your oil pan, you may have to modify your oil pan a little more, because the problem I run into, that's the reason I didn't bring my oil pan all the way back out, was because it was, my servo arm was wanting to scrub on it just a little bit.
Rubbing it, yep.
But I still wanted a little bit of protection over the motor and whatnot, so I just chose to cut my oil pan back a little more.
Right.
And cover the motor completely.
So you can't, when this thing's all together, you can't see in there and hardly even tell.
Yeah.
He's got it disassembled right now.
From the side view and stuff, you can't hardly tell at all.
And it works. I mean, in my opinion, I think personally it's worth it.
Now, I just used, for the mounting process, I just used the same two little screws that came out of the mount itself, that has the little recessed heads on them.
Okay, yeah, the countersunk ones,
yeah. Little countersunk. Now, with this aluminum, I don't know. When I lined this up, of course, I used my plastic piece, like I mentioned earlier, that I used first for a template.
Right.
Because you mess it up, then you can always get you another piece and redo it.
Exactly.
But to get these little countersinks in the aluminum itself, I don't know, I'm just no country boy. I took my pocket knife out and just used my pocket knife, the end tip of my pocket knife, and reamed them out.
Right.
After I drilled the hole. I drilled the hole first and then
used
my pocket knife.
And then another way you can do that too is like take a little bigger of a drill bit, guys, and just kind of, but any way works.
You gotta be really careful though.
Yeah, you do, because it'll burn right through it.
It'll grab a little bit too much and snag, and it'll pop right through.
Or if you got countersunk drill bits, work too.
But now this is, I mean, I measured it with tape measure. It's exactly a 16th.
It's a 16th of an inch,
and it's good and durable. I mean, it's aluminum, but it's good and solid.
Right. And you can buy this, guys. I picked it up. Where I got that from was at Tractor Supply, and it's cheap. It's an entire stick for, I think I paid $8 for an entire. It's just aluminum angle. They even sell steel if you wanted to make it out of steel as well, but really aluminum is the way to go.
Another cheap idea that I had, if I wasn't going to use the aluminum, these the old time, of course you can still buy them at Hardman's, the old galvanized
the electrical boxes,
outlet boxes.
Yep.
And it'd be a little more durable,
right,
and sturdier than the aluminum. And I don't know, you can pick them up probably at Hardman's for a couple of $3 or something like that, and cut one down. And then that way you have two sides to cut on if you mess one up.
Right. And it's not going to rust either, because it's galvanized stuff. Right.
Now my plan with this, I left it this color for the video, but this is going to be painted black, and it'll be blacked out, and then.
Right, you're not even going to notice it's there.
You won't even notice it's there.
And I mean, most of the guys that are running stuff like, I won't say the T word, but like Axial and stuff like that, most of your most of your servos are chassis mounted like that anyways. So really, you just did. Really, this is in my opinion, this is what Rc4wd Drive should have done. Really, with the truck.
Yeah.
I mean,
in my opinion too, yes.
Right.
Because
they could have made the motor smaller and done this.
Them extra arms and stuff on there, just the extra length and stuff. It was just binding up somehow. And
yours was really bad. His was really bad, and it really did. His servos would get really hot. He's not making that up. It really was getting hot.
Now the little part that I left out here on this bracket, once I disassembled the servo and everything from back here, your link comes up here to a little pivot point.
Okay.
What would that be called? Just a little thing here. That little ferrule goes down through your extra servo horn on there.
Oh, like your little the little spacer piece.
No, the little
on your horn, on your servo horn.
Yeah, the little rod that runs down through this little loop that was on here. What would that little loop on here be called? But anyhow, with this, it's just an aluminum mount. So I just took a flat file and filed that off.
Yeah. Okay.
The little.
I know what you're talking about. It's like that little nub or whatever.
Yeah, the little nub that comes through there that your where your link comes up there first with the pivot point.
Right. Which is nothing to file down. Right. I mean.
Yeah, I just took a file and clipped it on both sides and
if you wanted to do it quick, grab a Dremel and a sanding wheel. Right. Boom, it'd be done in like what?
Yeah.
A couple of seconds?
Yeah, I mean it's just aluminum this mount is, so
yeah. Now that mount's not pot metal type aluminum, correct? That's actual aluminum. I couldn't remember if
actual aluminum.
Now the chassis is on the I don't think the Tf2, that's steel chassis, right?
Yes.
On the Tf3, and I'm pretty sure the Tf2 is it's just an aluminum chassis.
Yeah, it's
because I just drilled mine.
It's completely a square, made like a tube. It don't have the C channel.
No, but that's an actual steel chassis that they built the Tf3 on. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, I just love the Tf3 platform. I mean, it's so much better.
While we're doing, what did you? Yeah, go ahead and because people think I'm crazy when I talk about it. Because I mean, a lot of the other bigger YouTube channels and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Straight out of the box, I got the Tf2, the Midnight Edition. And of course, I fell in love with it because it was my first Rc4wd Drive. And straight out of the box, test driving.
Which they're great too. I mean, that's.
You've got to play with them to get them broke in. But man, I mean, it was just a world of difference when I got my Tf3. I mean, so much difference. It broke in. For some reason, it's a little heavier built than the Tf2. The springs broke in faster. The articulation of it, I mean, I've not had it very long, and you can see the articulation there already.
Yep.
And I've been running my Tf2 for a couple months or so before I had the Tf3.
I tell everybody, the suspension
it's still breaking in. I mean.
But you can do this.
Going to get there,
but you've done the same modifications for the Tf2 that's done to this. Like you pulled the internal springs out of the shocks.
Right.
Yep. You have worked the suspension around. There's nothing else. And my truck's the same, guys. My Tf3 is the same as this one. I just kind of worked the leaf springs in by hand and normally drove it, and it's a world of difference. You can literally take both trucks and put the same amount of runtime on them. And you're hearing it from another person here that owns both trucks. And the skid plate. Right off the bat, you get more belly clearance.
You get more belly clearance. Now, this is my experience. This not coming from anybody else. This is my experience.
With the same size tires.
Same size tires. Stock right out of the box. You get a better belly clearance. You got a 2-speed transmission.
Yep.
So you've got a high and low gear.
Which is actually kind of nice sometimes.
Versus a single.
Right.
The chassis itself, I mean, just the layout of the frame, the way that it is, it's so much more realistic.
Yep.
The break-in time period of the springs was quicker on this. You got a little more weight.
I think that helps a lot, is the weight, honestly.
So, yeah, I mean, comparing it to... There's no comparison, in my opinion, from the Tf3 to the Tf2.
Yep.
I mean, I love my Midnight Edition. Don't get me wrong. I love it, my Midnight truck. But
Yep.
This truck is really good. I mean, because if you're wanting to get somewhere quick, you just open that second gear. You've got the speed. It's still got the stock motor in it. The only thing I've changed out, I went to the Hexfly ESC. But even with the original ESC, the gearing in it, you still had that real super slow crawl if you wanted it.
Yep.
And it wasn't notchy.
The 2-speeds are very nice for that. Yeah, and it's not notchy. Now, I will add, because I know Denzel doesn't have the 2-speed in the TF2, but I have 2-speed TF2s. The TF3 2-speed seems to me, it seems to be smoother to me driving my trucks. And I've noticed people complain about the noise, because that's one of the other things I wanted to address is people complain about like the TF3 drive line being a lot noisier than the TF2. Well, not really.
No.
Well, I mean, it is if you're talking single speed R3 Rc4wd drive versus a 2-speed,
right.
But if you take a 2-speed TF2 trainee and then you take the Trailfinder 3 2-speed, they're about the same noise level, really.
Yeah.
There's not a huge... And honestly, changing the motor out of these guys and putting the Holmes in them completely quiets them down, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Now, honest, and over there, guys, and that right there, that rust bucket over there, that had the 45-turn Rc4wd drive motor in it and the scale R4 transmission with the overdrive, underdrive. Way noisier than this thing. It sounded just like an old Chevy in reverse. And I put the Holmes motor in that, and it was like a totally different... The Holmes motors quiets these trucks down.
I love Holmes hobby motors.
Yep, me too. Yep.
Before I even got into the Rc4wd drives, when I was running the Link trucks, you turned me on to the Holmes hobby motors, and man, I mean, they are awesome.
And I have to thank my buddy Jose Canseca for that, because he's the one that got me started on. I mean, I was diving into brushless stuff, and I don't have the need for really any brushless stuff unless it's a must-have to have for room and space, like the 2-in-1s we were talking about. That's the only reason why I'd be running any of the brushless systems, is run the 2-in-1.
Yeah, I would the Holmes hobby. You can take a Holmes hobby. I was even doing them in the Red Cat, and the Red Cat Gen 7s.
Right.
Man, you could put a Holmes hobby motor in that, and it'd make such a big difference.
Huge. Right off the bat, you can tell.
Right off the bat, without changing ESC or anything. You just change to a Holmes hobby motor, and man, it just a very big difference.
Yep. So he's got the mount there, guys, and I'll get one more. I'll get down in here while he's doing the...
Now, when you do this transformation, you've got to... There's not much room here to work with, so you got to put your servo down through the hole first. And you've got two different options of the way that you can mount this. You can put this servo underneath, or you can put your plate on, and you can squeeze it where it'll fit on top of the mount. But now I prefer it underneath myself.
Right, because you're using the plate for the complete support, bolting it down through or what? Yeah. Now, I mean, you can. That's a nice clean setup.
I tried it both ways. Now, see the bottom of your servo. You've still got just a little bit of slack there, so it's not in a bind or anything. So you can use it on top of the plate, or you can use it underneath.
Right.
But I didn't have no issues with it being underneath, and you still have plenty of clearance.
Right.
But I just didn't want to get my steering arm
hanging down.
I didn't want to get it too bound up of having it in too much of an angle.
Right.
I wanted it laying flatter, because you get a better push with your servo on it without having to burn on your servo so much. It just gives it a better angle.
Right.
But yet it don't get snagged on your springs or anything. It don't get bound up on the...
No, it works extremely well how you have it right there. I mean, I was super... It steers... I would actually recommend, if you guys actually do this, it steers so much better. I would definitely go to the XVD axles if you don't have them. Because it made that much of a difference. It will steer super tight.
try to get my hand here out of the way so you can see.
Okay, let me get up in here. I'll just get up here above it that way. It's kind of nice when you got two people. I mean, you guys can see right there how he's got
now
that.
Before I mount the plate first, I mount my servo first. Yeah, I found that a little bit easier. You almost have to when you're putting it down through.
Right.
And then I just started a couple screws in it.
We captured the same airdrop at the same time we both got stuff out.
If I get it in the right position. And one thing about the aluminum too, I drilled the holes the same size as the screw.
Right.
And it will it'll tap itself with the screw.
Which is a really good idea.
Yep. I didn't want the hose to be
Yeah. Okay, I'll pause it and go up. Okay, guys, he's putting it together here. I'm going to zoom in on you. That way we don't got to.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see where he was drilled the holes and everything. He's mounting his servo, like he said. He's mounting the servo to the plate, and then he mounts the plate on. And then we'll get a good shot of this. And I'll try to get, everything assembled. That way you guys can see. There we go.
Got one more to put through, and then I put little taps. Now, like I said, these screws, you can drill them the same size as the screw, and it will actually thread the aluminum.
Right.
And that's probably enough to hold it. But just to be on the safe side, I put little taps on the back side of mine. Or your little post that the servo mounts to.
Right.
You can also lay them on top of this. And as you thread up through,
it'll tighten
it'll tighten down on there.
Yeah.
And they're actually black. But like I said, I'm going to take this back apart anyway and paint everything black.
Oh, yeah. Once you paint that, man, you're not even going to notice that.
Right.
I mean, you would be no different than like those dudes that are running like them aluminumized, chromey type servos in their trucks too. You know what I mean? I prefer to run the darker servos. Just because, it goes away.
Right.
You don't,
I think as long as
a little more scale or whatever, what have you.
Didn't look through just a little bit too far to get my tap started. There we go.
Yeah, be fine with hollow, isn't bad.
It's a pretty quick, simple fix, and it don't take much time to assemble. And
I'd imagine I'm going to set the camera mount down here, guys, and try to get it tilted up there like that for now, because it probably takes more time to remove the motor and stuff out of it than it even does to probably do the cutting and all that stuff, really.
It does.
I mean, I personally think how you did that's actually a really nice job.
I'm pretty happy with it.
And you don't hardly got to spend any money. You know what I mean? It's not really an expensive. You can use your factory stock servo. Guys that say budget stuff right here, guys. I mean, is a really super budget, thing to do. Really, I mean,
it's a nice, cheap little idea, and it really works.
Right. I mean, actually, I can probably come over here on this side of you and do better. Probably get it a little bit. There we go. You guys can see how's it going on there from that angle a lot easier. I don't know why I didn't think of that sooner, but there he is. He's just running it through, and he's got the lock nuts, nylon lock nuts on the top, guys. That's all there is to it.
Yes, just tighten my little lock nuts down on it.
Just so you know for sure it's where it's going to be. And
like I said, the aluminum's probably enough to hold with it being threaded.
Right. And that kind of aluminum cuts thread pretty easy, too. Yeah. You're right, though. Definitely, I would highly recommend the lock nuts on it. 100%. And this is just kind of a nice little affordable upgrade. I mean, because it really is an upgrade for the steering, guys.
Oh, it made a world of difference.
I mean, this truck, I haven't had the trouble he's had with the binding with mine, but definitely still steers better than mine. You know, you get an automatic return on your wheels. You don't get that with the Tf3 steering. Definitely worth it. Really, it is.
I'm sometimes all fingers.
When you're working on a table and stuff that you not used to. So.
Yeah, and you've really got the garage is really looking awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's coming along pretty good. I mean, I got a lot of stuff to still move around, I guess, but still got to I got to extend it up. I got to make it a little taller, and I want to put some rafters and stuff in it with lighting. Probably in the back part of it, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. Too many projects. I was hoping to work on the parking lot out here. What I call the parking lot, where I got everything parked to make it a nice little scale parking set up there with some lights and stuff in it. And just focus on having fun and trailing a lot lately. Gotta have some fun. Can't work on them all the time. They break enough, you gotta work on them anyway.
Yeah, right.
But, I mean...
It's really nice to have this little garage work in, though, isn't it?
Yeah, and then, you know, when I do, like, harder to core fab stuff for drilling and cutting, I use this little table over here, and then when I'm just doing, like, interior stuff and paint work and stuff, I use my nicer desk area over there, and it's kind of nice just having the 3 work areas, especially if you're doing more than one project at a time. All right, guys, well, I'm going to come back over here. He's getting that buttoned up, and we'll do a little finalization here on when he's got it all done. And while he's doing that, we'll talk about, and I'm sorry, this video is going to be long. So if you guys, like I said, this is mainly going to be for the Tf3 guys. Well, not really, because we've discussed how performance, the Tf2 and Tf3 comparison is as well. Man, tongue tied. I haven't had my coffee for the evening. And what would you, to the guys that, because you've got some time now on these, like you trail quite a bit.
Yep.
So what is your take on a lot of people that say, how do I put this? Because I don't want to offend anybody. Like the dudes that always say, well, about the Yoda axles, and they're not dependable, and they break like, you know, super easy, and they don't.
I don't know how they are breaking them because, like you said, I trail quite a bit. I have never broke any axles. Right. I haven't broken any of the steering.
Well, you did break the axial ones.
Yes, on the axial. Yes. 2 sets.
Yeah, that's what I thought. 2 sets. And these people are going to watch this video and be like, no way.
Yes, 2 sets of axial axles.
Now, those were the 44s, right?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Those were the 40s. Not the original SCX-10. No, one of them was the original, right?
This is no lie. I ordered a set, and they was the aluminum cased axles.
Okay, I remember that.
Got them from Endura.
Yes.
I changed them axles.
What'd they last? 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Yep.
In the house. Not out on the trail.
Yep.
I shoot you not.
But to be fair, those were Enduras, right? Those were an aftermarket. But the first ones were the real axial axles.
The real axial axles, yes.
Yeah, and you took axles out of that were fine before.
Yeah.
You didn't have any trouble until you started. That's what I thought. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
But yeah, I bought them Endura axles, man. I put them things on in 10 minutes inside my house. I run it from the dining room into the sunroom where I was doing some construction work, and I had some 2x4s and stuff there, and I thought...
Nothing that would have broke it.
No.
Right. Nothing was in a bind or nothing.
Nope.
No.
Just thought I'd run up on them boards and check them out, you know, see how they was working, and the back wheels wasn't... I mean, it just... All of a sudden, it just quit working, and I could hear this click, 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 clicking.
And I can contest to the one set, because you got them off me, and they were practically new.
Right.
They had all new internals and stuff in them. So, I don't know what the deal was with that. So, I think it's just some people necessarily, and I'm not saying all the RC 4-wheel
Oh, yeah,
drives.
they're still there. They're still there.
You know what? Are you deaf?
Ooh.
You.
Me?
Okay, so he's got it all back together, guys. We're gonna do
Now,
a little.
To hook my servo up, I don't know if everybody does this or not, but I'm going to connect my battery just to align my servo. Turn everything on here. Let my servo set.
Oh yeah, he's talking about centering everything, guys. That's what he's doing. Let me get in the camera a little bit. He's just centering his. Wow, it's pretty centered. Oh, you don't have it. Okay. Your steering horn is not okay.
Right.
Okay, I see. I got you.
Doing this for to put my
there it is
to
for the
connect
bottom.
my servo horn back.
See, that's what we were talking about too, guys. You can't even
my
tell.
tires up and set that right back up on there, just like so.
Just like you would do if you were doing it.
Yep.
Any
Just
other way, guys.
Just installing your regular servo.
And
I just wanted to get
you know
it centered.
something else I'm thinking of too.
Now,
for
I do recommend. I will be taking this back apart, and on my top mount, where I put my screws back in for the mount itself,
right.
I'd recommend putting a little Loctite.
One shot left.
Right.
Now these, of course, you don't because they got the locking nuts.
All two of them are on you.
But
Yeah.
I always put Loctite, and even this screw here where I'm aligning my servo horn, I'll be taking this back apart and I'll put a little Loctite on it, but
Right.
just temporary to put it back together here.
Watch how you get
And
it
then
on you.
check everything in here out.
You guys can see it. We'll do a little steering test here, guys.
And the last one, you gotta find-
And that's a stock twister servo with just on. That's 7.4 volts on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not. Yeah. That's what I thought. Okay. So
Yeah, that's not. That's just a hex fly, nothing high powered. Just a hex fly out of the Red Cat.
But it turns so much better, man. That's flat down, guy, and it's weighted wheels too. Those are not weighted, but they're heavy.
Yeah, they're
wheel.
the Trio,
Right.
which
They're-
are 103 grams, I think, or something like
I think
that.
they're 130 something with the
Or
tire
100,
on.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's actually pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, it'll push itself when you put your hand.
see
up
that
against
there,
it.
guys? See how much better it steers?
And before it,
I mean, it walks it across the table. Yeah.
before it would not do that at all.
No, they will not. I can contest to that. Mine will not do that right there. Yeah, mine won't do that right there.
No, free.
So it'll push itself.
Yeah, so that's plenty. You know, if you put a higher powered
You put
servo in
Higher
there.
powered servo in that, which I do have coming, but
Yeah,
I burned up.
it's
Like you said, the first stock servo that was in it, it burned up, and then I made this one got hot.
I remember
And
that.
that's when I decided, okay, I do not like this steering setup.
Right.
I'm going to modify and make it kind of like a TF2.
Well, kind of. Yeah. I mean, because the TF2 is just mounted the opposite direction off to the side.
Yeah, it's just sitting over here to the side, but there's not enough gap here in between. Now, I'm sure you could probably modify. If I'd have took more time, I could have probably modified something and made it work over here, but this was the easiest way that I could think of.
And it hides it really well.
Now, somebody might have come up with a better idea, but if you open the hood, now, like I said, this is going to be painted black.
Which will be gone. You're not going to
But
see
the
it.
servo and everything's underneath the head of the motor.
Exactly. You're not going to see that. You're
So,
just not going to see that.
You're just not going to see it.
No. And if, like you said, even
And
if you
from
open the hood,
underneath, I mean, it's got a good look.
And
like I said,
really, this
when
could
you
be put back on your
decompress everything,
servo.
Your linkage does not touch the pumpkin. You still got plenty of room.
Right.
And that's with everything decompressed. It's still got plenty of room to steer.
Doesn't hit anything or nothing.
Doesn't hit.
Look how free it is, guys. It just freed up. I mean, it's just, there's not,
Everything's free.
it just moves like fluid. I mean,
Now, the thing I was talking about earlier, like I said, you can also mount this servo on top of the plate.
right.
And it would not make any difference. The only difference it would be is if you wanted to put a 550 can motor in it.
Right.
And I still,
The can
no, I
motor.
don't think, no, it wouldn't. If you look there.
I don't think it would. No.
it wouldn't touch.
No, it's not going to hit that. No.
Now, I chose to put a nut on top of this just to keep it from backing out.
Right,
on
a little
top of the
lock
servo
nut.
horn. But if you use a little bit of Loctite and run your regular screw up in there to where it just sets flush,
Right.
it won't touch the bottom of the motor.
And if you needed more room, you could always, like you said, you can mount this plate under.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. You'd have plenty of clearance to run whatever
Yep.
you wanted. So your 2-in-1s and everything would fit in here, guys.
Yep.
Because a 2-in-1's a 540, but the can's bigger. Yeah, because you got your ESC and everything in it. So, I mean, I think it was a great idea. You know, and you're just cutting this little bit off.
Actually, this part here wasn't even cut. This was just screwed to the
front that screws to the front of the motor.
You only cut off like.
Well, I mean, I meant you're just removing that. That's what I meant. You're just removing that.
You only have like a 1/4 inch or so.
Yeah, you're not even cutting that much off of it, really. I mean, not really. And to have that kind of steering on it, you know, that right there, in my opinion, solves the TF3's worst downfall right there.
Right.
Other than people complaining about the noise, which I just don't understand completely.
Yeah, because it's not really that noisy.
I don't know. I don't understand.
I mean, if you're comparing to the Tf2, yeah, there's a little bit more noise, but...
Right, but you can literally go out into the woods with that truck if you're trailing by the river, and the river's going to be noisier than the truck making the noise. I don't know what guys get into with the noise. I don't know. And, like, they quiet down extreme lot when you put them Holmes motors. And if you put a brushless in that, it would be even quieter.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, so you guys got, a lot of people don't take that, what kind of motors are running in these trucks. So
the main thing with these is the only thing that I can figure that's making so much racket that they're complaining about is to take these apart and make sure that they're clean and greased.
Like I did mine.
Yep.
Yep.
You got good grease in there.
Yep.
Got a good lubrication in there. You're not going to hear them gears as much.
No. And that's, even the TF2 is the same way.
Right.
But you can take my TF2, because my buddy commented on the one about putting a little bit of the bearing oil on that orange truck, and it's a 2-speed. Yeah, it's not the motor making the noise; it's the transmission whine. Right. It's just I call it the old Chevy complex. Because you remember the old Chevys in reverse and that wow, wow, wow.
Yep.
You know, I mean, that's just that. You know,
I kind of like that sound when you.
I kind of do too.
You got it in that first gear and it's going down over gravel and stuff, and it's doing that little bit.
Well, you put a real truck in low range like that.
Right.
They wow. I mean, they all do because it's super low geared. You know.
Right.
I mean, but especially the old stuff, the newer stuff, not so much. But you get into them old '70 Chevy pickups and stuff, and you lock them down in 4 low in first gear, and you're I mean, they're really, you know, growling at you. But there you go, guys. That's the servo mod. Nice, and like I said, it's not easy. It's not hard. It's very easy to do.
A very easy, simple fix. And I mean, if you're a perfectionist, this is off just a little bit, just a hair on each side. I mean, you can really take your time, and you can make this plate to where it'd even go on back
completely hidden
and completely hide everything, black it out. Put a little bit of primer, because aluminum, I just sanded that with a little light sandpaper, and you primer it,
right,
a little coat of paint on it. It's going to be black.
Easy peasy, really. I mean, I may end up doing this to mine just to I know I'm not going to have trouble down the road with it. Is the reason why I would do it.
Mine done like this, and it does take a little more time to assemble your servo. You seen how I did it by having to put everything down through first underneath this head. Now, if you're a person that doesn't care, you can actually chop this motor off. You can chop this whole piece off.
You could. Yeah.
And then you'd have even
more room.
Access.
Oh, it'd be easy.
It'd be even easier.
Yeah, it'd be even easier.
But I wanted my head and everything. I still wanted to have that motor look when you look down, if you happen to open up the hood or whatnot. And then all this is just going to be blacked out.
Well, technically, you could hide that too with a fan shroud.
Right.
And you could mount your fan and stuff up inside of your fan shroud if you were that worried about it.
Right.
So you'd still have if you were going super scale stuff.
You also, I'll point this out, you also have enough clearance here. You have enough room that you could make this mount to where you could actually put this servo back a little farther.
Right.
And then you could also take this piece and put right back on it.
Right. I see what you mean. Yeah, you just have to cut more of your block back or whatever.
Cut more of your block back and make that mount, like I said, just extend it back a little farther.
I kind of like how you have it there, man, because it's right out in the front.
Yep.
It keeps your weight all the way over the nose.
Up underneath. It's
I mean,
not going to get snagged up on rocks.
No.
The horn is turning backward to where it's.
And it really clears your leaf springs really well. Yep. I mean, I think that's right where it should be, honestly.
And it does not hurt the articulation It doesn't
No.
bind either direction. It does not bind up.
And that's another thing too, guys, I think really helps a lot on the TF3. A lot of people hate that steering arm that runs that he did away with, but I think that helps free it up a lot better.
It does. It frees it up a lot.
Because you can watch the TF2 and they have that little bit of
Yep.
binding in the front suspension because of how the steering's set up in them.
Yeah, it's because of where it's anchored over here in this corner.
Yep, exactly. I've been noticing that a
And
lot.
That rod runs kind of back in an angle.
Yep.
Where doing it this way, you see you're putting your leverage. It's putting it back closer to the axle.
Yep.
So it's getting the more straighter of the push.
Yeah, the TF2 is up here.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I've kind of noticed. I think that's why the suspension help works better on the TF3 as well.
Now somebody might come up with a better idea.
Well, it works better after you modify your suspension because it don't
Yeah.
flex, guys, out of the box either. You ain't gonna get no better TF2 or TF3 stock box fresh. They're not gonna. I hate that word flex because all the link guys use it so much. Articulating.
Right.
You're not gonna have much of any articulation with a TF2 or TF3 box fresh.
Right.
I mean, you're gonna have to do the same mods to both trucks. It's just the main shortcomings of this TF3 was the steering for everybody.
The main thing with these spring trucks is you got to realize. A lot of people don't realize they're manufactured they're a replica of the real.
Yes, they're a replica of the truck.
They're not a link crawler.
No.
So you rather drive them like you do a real vehicle.
But
So yeah, they're not going to go where. I mean, they will go where link. I've taken.
oh
them
yeah,
where link
with
trucks will
smaller
go.
tires, I
With-
might add.
Yes, with smaller tires.
Yep. And if you really modify these, if you're not into the scale stuff so much, like my red 4Runner, it's got more of the A&M stuff and stuff of that nature on it. That does make another huge difference.
Right.
But the thing is, sometimes you have to sacrifice scale a little bit for performance. I mean, that's just the world that it is. But I would rather sacrifice a little because, I mean, what we're crawling in those videos, I mean, you can't stand up on that hill, really.
No,
You
no,
know.
there's a few spots there you'll bust your butt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people realize how steep some of that is.
Oh,
What do you
yeah.
think that is? Probably a 40-some% incline?
At least,
At
yeah.
least. I
Yes.
mean, it's steep. You know, I mean, if you were to just bust up, try to run up it, you're gonna be climbing when you get towards the top.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because
Yeah,
we watch
you-
kids do it all the time over there at the
Right.
church, and they slide down it.
Yeah, they slide down it.
Yeah, so yeah, it's not
And that's without snow on it.
right. Exactly. So these trucks do perform really well.
Yes, they do.
I think people sell the leaf spring trucks a lot short, man, and small tire. You know, you don't.
I've got them little small tires on my midnight. And
Yeah.
I mean, it
The only thing that gives you trouble is your pumpkins and the
Yeah, the
center
pumpkins.
on the But then again, those are not even like right at a 3.7 tire.
Yeah.
So that's like pretty.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
pretty small.
Yeah, I mean, but the difference we seen yesterday with like his 3.85s, we seen with my 3.85s, and then your 3.7s was where your pumpkins would hit, mine would clear.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that little bit of difference made that big.
Just that little bit, yeah.
I mean, you could literally see it. I wish I got that on camera, but I was really surprised at that. I couldn't believe you were hitting the dirt like that with it, and mine wasn't. And that's a teensy bit. You're talking, that's nothing. That's minuscule.
Right.
You know, but it made a difference, guys. I mean, so that's why I stay with the 3.8, 3.85 tire. And them General Grabbers are fantastic. They're a good tire, especially once you break them in. Or
Yeah,
put
they're broke in now. They're starting to.
They wear in. They
they're
really
starting to
do.
go better.
And then you can put hair buns in them as well. And that's what I had in mind. And they really dug with the hair buns in them.
And they're super. I mean, they're.
And they're not real expensive either.
And
I
they're
mean-
a super tire for the TF3, in my opinion. I mean,
They fit the truck almost perfect. And that would equate to like running a 35, 36-inch tire, in my opinion, on a Toyota pickup, really. Scale-wise. I just can't do the monster truck tires anymore. The big 4.75s and stuff like that. It's just hard for me to run them now.
I'm on video. I can get it to work.
Yeah, he's got the pin on The grub, it's not, you know, you didn't, that's not the grub screw, is it? You use the screw and then cut it down, right? That's just an M3.
Yeah.
And then, but you...
See, I don't get no fender scrub or anything.
No, they're perfect size right there, that tire, for the TF3. And it looks really good. Once again, I have to thank my buddy Jose Canseca for turning me onto them Trio wheels. He's the one that originally sent me the link and stuff for them Trio wheels. And
I love them.
they're great wheels, man. They look good. They got that old school look, like an old rally type wheel. They really look good on about anything.
And you can change the tires on these so fast.
They are. Every tire, guys, I've tried to mount on them Trio wheels, they mount like butter.
Right.
You're not fiddling with them forever, trying to get the beads and stuff to sit right and everything. And I mean, I've put everything on them. I've had Pro lines mounted on mine. I've had all my RC4wd drives. No, I can't say I haven't tried to mount any of the cross stuff, but I don't even know what they make. I don't even know if they make 155 wheels. I have no idea what they have.
I'm not sure if they do either.
I think most of their stuff's 1.9. I don't think they make 155. I don't know, but I've never tried any. But I've had everything else. Those are Element, General Grabbers. They mount fine. I don't think there's any tire that really don't mount to those. Now, a Pro line and RC4wd drive do not mix well together. I fought a set of wheels in here to the point to where I was about ready to throw them out the window. And finally got them with the blue rings on the RC4wd drive wheels.
I just love the Trios because they're already weighted.
They're perfect weight.
You can see there, and that's without any brass weights. That's without any internal weight.
Nothing else.
The wheels.
It's all stock except for that wheel.
All stock except for the Trio.
And there's not a lot of time on this truck. Those leaf
No.
springs are still setting in too.
Yeah, this is still a fairly new truck.
Yeah, I mean, you don't got what, maybe half the time, not even half the time you've got on the midnight truck on this, do you?
No, not half.
Nah, I didn't think so. And his midnight truck will not do this, will it?
No.
I mean,
No,
especially in the front.
I finally got it to where I can put my hand about like that
on the midnight.
On the midnight.
Right. And you've got weighted wheels on that as well, don't? No, you've got my old boom, the Pro builds, but they're heavy.
Well, even when I had the Trio wheels,
it still wouldn't do it.
It flexed a little more,
but not much, right? Not a huge difference.
It didn't like this.
Now the boom wheels aren't as heavy as those, but they're still heavier.
Yeah, they're a little heavy.
They're still like not like a stock wheel.
As heavy as the Trio.
No, but your leaf springs will keep.
Yeah, they'll keep breaking in.
Right. I mean, it just takes a while, and you can flatten them out and make them do it faster. Or you can buy red leaves. A lot of guys, I mean, I don't think they're needed, but...
No, I think I'll just I'll flatten mine
work them out. Yeah, that's... And the thing is, the guys that jump right on them red leaves, right off the bat, you have to have a helper.
I watched a couple YouTube videos of guys that put them on their truck, and they were not happy with them.
I have them on the 4Runner over here. The yellow 4Runner, I painted them. Because I couldn't stand the red. But if you look, there's a spring pack with that.
Yeah.
And if you don't run anti-wrap with that, they're done.
Yep.
I mean, you're just better to break in the regular leaves, in my opinion. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, just take them apart, put them down on the table, and flatten them out.
Flatten them out.
Work them with your hand.
Yep.
And they'll break right.
Yeah, flattening them out and taking the tension out of them a little bit. You don't need to spend a fortune buying a bunch of aftermarket leaf springs that I see a lot of people run. Not that it's not a bad thing. You should spend your money on them, spend your money. And they look cool. Those buggy leaf setups are really awesome on them hardcore rock trucks. And, you know, people run buggy leafs in the real one-to-one world as well on Jeeps and stuff. I just don't see where it's really needed for me. I mean, we've been in some pretty decent spots now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that rock ridge that Jason and I was on with the Marlin.
Oh, I'd like to go up there sometime.
We're going. I'm telling you, that's a lot harder than it looks, man. And that Marlin never rolled not one time in that whole video. And I mean, he had some trouble with the red 4Runner, but you know, the ESC is going bad in it. So it takes off on its own.
It just takes, yep.
So he did really well considering it has a mind of its own sometimes. So before it goes back out, it has to have an ESC put in it. So. But yeah, we're going to go back up there to that. We're going to do some videos up there at that one. Because the rust bucket's not got much longer to be ready to go. That'll be a nice spot to break it in at, I think.
Man, this garage is just so cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I've been working on it.
It's just awesome. You've got four-wheelers in here, motorcycles.
Yeah,
Oh,
got a
wow.
Harley in there. Real scale too. It's about perfect. Setup scale wise.
Your oxygen settling tanks
Yeah.
back there.
Yeah.
Oil drum.
Yep, oil
Oh,
drum.
wow.
My brother got me the oil drum. That was given to him for free, and he gave it to me. He didn't have a use for it, and that's just my little motorcycle. That's why I got the Harley. I made up them Harley signs. And then I've just been hanging parts that I take off, just like a real garage.
Yeah.
You know, guys take a bumper off. What do they do with it?
You got bumpers hanging back here.
Made that little thing there for my banners. You know, I'm not sponsored by any of them or anything like that, but I figured if I'm buying their stuff and they're sending them to me, the least I can do is put them up, because that's what you're going to do in a real garage. You know what I mean? If you're a Ford man, you're going to hang Ford banners, a Chevy banner, you know, and so forth. And I took the back glass out of I just couldn't do the back window in the rust bucket, man. It's wrong. You know, the Chevy's got the windows that go. I just couldn't do that. Plus, it just didn't look right in a rusted, beat up Blazer. What back glass wouldn't be in that? You know what I mean? So I took it out. That's what a lot of people don't. I don't think my buddy didn't like. I don't think he liked my dirtied up rust bucket motor there. But you can't have a rusted up Chevy Blazer without a rusted up small block, dirtied up small block. I mean, but that's all handmade. I made all that.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Brake lines on the master cylinder, and then the scale stuff I swapped off for this motor right here, the Coma D 3D one. And then I made all them lines, the AC compressor lines. I made all that. The silver tubes, all that's made. I made all that. The spark plug water.
Oh, you even got fluid in your.
Yeah, I've even got
your
fluid in the washer.
your
And
washer
I've got
fluid.
the overflow jug that I haven't hooked up yet. I'm going to do the fluid in it. I've even got the fluid in the master cylinder.
So much detail. Look at them wires on that coming off the distributor. That is really
I made
awesome.
all that. That's all made. And it's just, that was the cheapest motor I could get my hands on at the time, that SSD. It's $25 small block Chevy from SSD for the Trail King. That's what that is. It comes with all the chrome parts, bits, and all that.
Seeing it in video and then seeing it in person, man. I mean,
It looks different,
so
don't it?
much. That looks so real.
Yep.
That is really awesome.
Yep. And then here's the transmission for the tow truck. That's going to be the transmission that goes. That's another R4 I got off of another guy. So I'll be switching out to the R4 transmission in that one. I'm not going to run the SSD small block in it though. I want a diesel motor, I think, in that.
Oh wow, that top does look good.
I thought it
seen
looked
in-
pretty
I've
good.
seen it in the video, but
It does. It looks like a real molded up, dirty
it does.
topper, right?
Yeah.
I made that. That's all. That cost me $1.25. I didn't spend a bunch of money on paints like a lot of guys do on their YouTube channels and stuff like that. That's just some cheap. That was just I can't remember. I got this stuff at the Dollar Tree. I don't know what I did with the tube of it. I'd show it real quick. I don't know what I did with that stuff. I don't know where it went. It works really well, and you can take it off. You can actually. I'm gonna stop the video here, guys. So from the RC Dungeon, peace.